Hi everyone. There are many reviews on YouTube and the internet on, the longest lasting battery on a smartphone, the most durable smartphone, the fastest smartphone, the most expensive smartphone. But no one wondered how reliable is this phone, or what makes any phone reliable or unreliable. Which phones can last with you for 3, 4, or even 5 years, and which phones can't? Let's find out. Basic phone reliability can be divided into 3 points: battery life cycle, build quality, and software support. Let's start with battery life cycle. Almost all the batteries in smartphones nowadays are lithium-ion batteries. Since this type of batteries is cheaper, has a higher energy density, and is a lot thinner than lithium polymer batteries, which were used by many phones in the late 90s and early 2000s time, when lithium ion wasn't massively produced enough. But of course, like any other battery, over time with usage its efficiency starts to drop, meaning that 100% charged when it's out of the box won't give you the same screen time as 100% charged after a year of usage. Manufacturers are advising that your battery should be replaced after 300 to 500 charges. Now, that can be based on a person's usage and the environmental conditions around the phone, but a reliable phone should get you close to that 500 benchmark or even higher, which can be achieved by many ways, like for example 1. Buying a phone with a higher battery milliamp count, thus a higher storage capacity. 2. Using organic LED displays since they save way more energy than your typical LCD displays. And 3. Through clever software optimization, which gets rid of any unnecessary cache file remains and minimizes the energy usage from programs or operations running in the background. The best example for an optimized software experience can be found on iPhones and all the other Apple devices, which is a big reason why their phones live for so long. Build quality. At the start of the smartphones era, almost all of them were fully made of plastic. Then in 2013, HTC started making their flagships in a full metal body, which definitely gives a more premium look and feel, but it has many cons like being a good conductor of heat, which meant that it dissipated a lot of the heat from the processor onto your hands. Plus, the metal form factor gets scratched pretty easily and can interfere with high-frequency radio waves, resulting in bad signal. Nowadays, most high-end flagships use full glass bodies, since it's the only material that can support wireless charging, plus it feels the nicest and gives the phone a nice hefty weight, again, giving it a nice premium feel. But of course, one of the biggest drawbacks with using glass, apart from it being an absolute dust and fingerprints magnet, is that it can break and crack relatively easier with any big drop than the materials discussed before. Now, to ensure that your phone's body is as reliable as possible, you should opt for one of the following solutions. 1. Use phones with a metal casing. In spite of the drawbacks of metal that we've discussed, it's still the best and most reliable material you can have on your phone, to ensure that it's fully protected and increase its longevity. 2. If you can't find any metal smartphones that suit your desires, your second best option will be buying phones made of sapphire crystal. Yes, it's mainly available on higher end phones, but it's worth having since it's way more scratch resistant and rugged than normal glass, while still keeping the same nice hefty feel and wireless charging functionality. Thirdly, if you have to use glass, then pick a phone that uses Corning's Gorilla Glass, which is manufactured by a company called Corning. Yes, dumb name, I know, but it's considered the strongest glass that can be used on a smartphone. And as the number of Gorilla Glass is higher, the stronger and more durable it is. For example, Gorilla Glass 4 is stronger than Gorilla Glass 3, while Corning's newest iteration, Gorilla Glass 6, is the strongest glass on a smartphone currently available. Software support. Getting regular updates for your phone, whether it's monthly or quarterly, removes any bugs, crashes, and frees up excess storage and cache files on your device, thus keeping your phone up to date and running as smooth as possible. Now, why we see many phones after 2 or 3 years of usage get slow and glitchy is because their companies stopped supporting them in terms of regular updates and bug fixes. So they basically don't get any new software updates and you're just stuck with what you have. As a result, obviously, the more previous generations of their phones a company stays supporting, the more reliable its phones will be and the more reassured you will be when buying one of their phones. So we'll compare the software support for the top 3 global phone brands, which are Huawei, Samsung, and Apple. And bear in mind, we will only be comparing their flagship line, basically the highest end phones each one of them makes. So let's start with Huawei with its P series. In the monthly updates, there's only the P30 and P30 Pro, so basically one generation. Then in the quarterly updates, we have the P30 Lite, again same generation. Then the P20 Lite, which we won't count as another generation since they only have the cheapest model of the P20, not the actual main ones. Then the P Smart 2019. Then the P9 Lite Mini, which same as the other one we won't count. Then finally the P Smart Pro. So Huawei supports a total of 3 generations back. Next up is Samsung with their Galaxy S series. In the monthly updates, we have the Galaxy S20 Ultra and the S20 with all of their models. That's one generation. Then the S10 with all of its models, and then the S9 with all of its models. Then finally the S8 Active. And in the quarterly updates, we have the rest of the S8 models. And as before, we won't count the S7 Active since it's not the flagship model. So we have a total of 4 generations in the case of Samsung. And then finally, Apple. Now, Apple doesn't do this monthly or quarterly updates thing. If it's supported by them, then it'll get the same exact updates just as frequent as the newest iPhone. So let's start. First, we have the iPhone 11, 11 Pro, and Pro Max. That's one generation. Then the iPhone XS and XS Max. Then the iPhone X generation. Then the iPhone 8 and 8 Plus. Then the 7 and 7 Plus. Then the iPhone 6s and 6s Plus. Resulting in a total of 6 generations back in the case of Apple, making iPhones the most software supported phones you can buy. Then comes Samsung with their 4 generations, then Huawei with 3 generations. That concludes the points you should consider in order to get the most reliable phone possible. Thanks for watching and goodbye.